Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome back to At the Book here on bet.nola.com. I'm Zach Ewing, along with our producer Devin Jackson and Jim Derry and Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Back with you after a little bit of a holiday break. I think the last time we were on was a week ago Monday. It was just me and Eric Biggio of the Caesars Sportsbook baseball trading team. That was a lot of fun. But the gang's all back in town now. I hope you guys are all refreshed and relaxed and ready for abuse and all that.
10 pounds heavier and ready to go.
All right. Where do we all go? Jim, you were in Florida. Spencer, you went to Tennessee and Missouri. Devin, where'd you go for you went to a wedding somewhere?
Yeah, I went to a wedding in Atlanta for a old high school classmate and teammate.
So we were all over the South. I just sort of stuck it out here. But that's fine. That's fine. We had a good 4th of July. We're ready to go. And we will talk about some football plans. We're getting very close to starting our NFL and college football preview series here on bet.nola.com. Every bit of information you could hope for on futures bets, on the changing markets for look-ahead lines, for win totals, for all of it. And we'll talk about that. We do want to remind you first and foremost that if you are new to the game and have not yet signed up for Caesars Sportsbook, we have a special promo code for you. You can get your first $1,500 bet or first bet up to $1,500 risk-free by going to NOLA.com/Caesars. You go and do that anytime, and your first bet, however big it is, up to $1,500. If you lose it, you get that money back to try again. So sounds pretty good to me. If you win that bet, like I've been betting on Yordan Alvarez of the Astros over 1.5 total bases. I've won 5 straight days. The guy has a double or a homer every single day.
Way to jinx it.
So, they've already played today, so I'm good. Or they're playing right now. He already hit a home run, so I'm good. And if you win, you pocket that cash. If you lose, you get another chance at it. So it's all good. Having said that, some football stuff. Jim, I want you to kind of take the lead on this because you're going to bear the brunt of it for us. Every single day starting next Tuesday, July the 12th, every single weekday except for Monday, so it'll be Tuesday through Friday, one division each week, we are going to spend on one NFL team.
We are. We're going to start with the AFC East and the Buffalo Bills. We're going to go in alphabetical order through the divisions, and it's going to be fun. I'm breaking down each team and why I think you should take the over or the under, or maybe there's no play at all. I'll make a prediction on each team, but I may say it's no play even when I make a prediction. And we're going to have Adam Chernoff of Covers.com will be on to tell me if he thinks if I'm right or if I'm wrong. It will mostly be Adam Chernoff. There'll be some days when it'll be someone else from Covers.com. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be very intense, long and intense, and a lot of work. But hey, that's why you take vacation, so you can get it back together and get going. And I know Spencer's going to have some fantasy stuff going to go with it.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, looking forward to that. Breaking down the team and players and such. So
those of you who followed. And Jay, just to answer that question real quick, that promo is for new Caesars Sportsbook accounts. Obviously, if you are an existing member, we hope to find you some winners out there and hope you keep playing. But that promo is for new accounts only. But for those of you who listened to us last fall when bet.nola.com got started, listen to Spencer's fantasy advice, listen to Adam Chernoff the few times we had him on, and read Jim's picks every week. If you follow this stuff starting Tuesday, you are going to know as much about the NFL as any sports bettor out there by the time the season starts in September 7th, I believe it starts, or September
the 9th. I think it's the 9th.
8th, I think. I think the 8th is a Thursday. I got the calendar. Yeah, September 8th is the Thursday night, and September 11th is the opening Sunday. So by then, you will know everything there is to know about these teams and their outlook. Obviously, during that time, training camp will start. During that time, preseason will start. There will be some injuries. Things will change a little bit. But we'll keep up with that, too. So we're really looking forward to that. We've got you covered from a fantasy angle as draft season starts up here. And we're going to have you covered from a betting angle. We're going to get Devin to make some super obscure college football picks that hit it 80% against the spread. We're going to do it all. So we're looking forward to that. It all starts next week. In fact, starting on Monday, of next week with Bayou Bets, we're really going to start hitting football heavy. Although we will have a little bit of Pelicans talk, and we're going to get to them too on Monday. But I wanted to start right now kind of with the football news of the week for today, and that is that the Cleveland Browns traded Baker Mayfield to one of the New Orleans Saints division rivals, the Carolina Panthers, yesterday for a conditional 4th or 5th round pick, depending on where it lands. It'll either be a 4th rounder or a 5th rounder. And Devin wrote the story yesterday. You can find it on bet.NOLA.com. The long and the short of it is this didn't change the Panthers' outlook all that much. We look at their division odds. They were 12-1 to win the NFC South before the move. They're now 10-1, Jim. So it's a small movement.
Yeah, and I mean, everything I'm reading now, and I think there's probably an 80-85% chance that he starts, but I mean, there's still – we don't know what's going to happen in training camp. I mean, Sam Darnold's already there. He's got a year on his belt, as bad as he was. I mean, there's no guarantee that Baker Mayfield is going to be the starter. They didn't give that much for him. Obviously, you bring him in there and you hope he's going to start, but there's no guarantee. And the Panthers moved, like you said, I think they were plus 1,200 before to win the NFC South before he got there. They've ticked up just a little bit. The Falcons have gone for 2,500 to 3,000, and the Saints and Bucks haven't moved. So there is very little movement. I don't think Baker Mayfield makes all that difference, but hey, maybe we'll see something during camp. We won't get to the Panthers until I believe they are August the 31st when we do the preview for the Panthers. They will be third to last, right ahead of the Bucks and Saints. And so we got a lot of time before we make our prediction on Carolina to see if it will change and see if their odds change.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 2019 or 2020 Baker Mayfield as opposed to last year, especially in 2020, he had a pretty good year. Now, great running game, great offensive line, good defense in Cleveland. But you remember that team made the playoffs and gave Kansas City a run. Devin, I mean, there's something under the hood there with Baker where if Carolina can unlock it, maybe they do become a much better team.
Yeah, but I mean, it goes to coaching, really. I mean, the situation is a little bit different. Matt Rule is essentially coaching for his job this year. You got in Ben McAdoo, who has built a reputation to not being the greatest offensive mind over the last couple of years. So it's not a great situation for Baker, but at the very least, if he plays average or slightly above average, I mean, Carolina, they're not going to make the playoffs, I don't think, but there certainly would be an interesting team, and it can set up Baker for maybe his next team next offseason, because this is really not an ideal situation to be in, assuming that, if Carolina does have a winning season, they're probably going to replace Matt Rule. So I think for Baker, it's a new situation. Just attack it, the best mindset and see what happens. But he, like you said, Jim, he has to win the job first, and that's the most important thing of all.
Yeah, and if he does win the job, by the way, the starting quarterbacks in the NFC South will all be either number 1 or number 2 picks, except for Tom Brady. And I believe all 3 of them will have won a Heisman Trophy, except for Tom Brady. Between Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, and now Baker Mayfield. But that obviously is not the reality of the situation. Spencer, how do you rank Baker's move to Carolina, and where does he fit in the hierarchy of NFC South quarterbacks?
All right, yeah, I just want to say this, man. Baker Mayfield, he does not scare me. Just looking at it from a Saints perspective, I don't see him moving the needle much, if any, for Carolina. He might a little bit, though. He's definitely better than Sam Darnold, because at least he has that competitive fire, always plays with a chip on his shoulder. Sam Darnold, as you look at him, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Or at least Baker tries. He tries to compete, but a lot of times he just makes dumb decisions and comes up a little short and is real stubborn, difficult to work with, probably going to piss off a teammate or two along the way. So it's one of those things. I think they could start off hot, so the Saints definitely have to watch them early. I believe the Saints get the Panthers in either week 2 or 3.
It's week 3.
Okay, yeah, week 2.
I thought they played Tampa in week 3.
But they play Tampa in week 2, but we'll look.
Yeah, it's one of those. I know Atlanta's the first week, but yeah, that Carolina game could be a little tricky. Kind of like last year, that ended up being a tricky game. I know the Saints were missing a lot of the coaches, but still, it turned out to be an upset there. But I'm thinking though that with Baker that they'll be a tad better, but it's not going to make a difference. They're not a playoff team. Like Devin said, coaching matters, and Matt Rule is one of the worst head coaches in the NFL. So sorry, Baker. You got your wish, you got traded, but it's not going to matter.
Spencer starting the season off strong here, man. I like that take, just throwing down the gauntlet. I mean, honestly, though, a bigger deal for Carolina would be if you could tell me that Christian McCaffrey would be healthy for 17 games. If you'd tell me that, I'd be more scared of Carolina than I am just because Baker Mayfield's the quarterback.
Well, if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, they're gonna surpass the 6.5 win total. But I mean, who can count on that? I mean, and you just can't. I mean, he's proven time after time that he gets hurt, then they shut him down, and there's always some excuse. And I mean, he could have come back. I think last year at the end of the year, if they were in it, he would have come back. But I mean, at what point do you start? You just start wondering. I mean, and so you can't count on Christian McCaffrey, and the rest of their team is nothing special. They've got a few decent receivers. We know Terrace Marshall was really good at LSU, and their defense is okay. But I just don't. As of now, I'm not going to make my prediction now because we still got a long way to go. But if you made me pick right now, I'd probably say I'd pick them to go under again.
Yeah, it's just not a great situation, as Spencer mentioned. Matt Rule almost has the feel of a lame duck coach. Yeah. And if they start out 1-3 or something,
he won't make it through the year.
Yeah, he will either be a lame duck coach or he will get fired before the year ends. It is week 3, by the way. The Saints travel to Charlotte to play Carolina. They open in Atlanta. Week 2 is home against Tampa Bay, then back on the road to Carolina. Those 3 straight division games to start the season. So we'll see. We'll see how he looks in training camp, the preseason. As you mentioned, guys, he's got to beat out Sam Darnold first, which is not 100% given. I think we'd expect that, but not 100% given.
Zach, real quick, I will say this, though. If you do like Carolina, if you think this makes a difference, I mean, we're just analyzing what we think and we're saying, what we see. But if you like Carolina, if you think this makes a big move, this is a team that you need to make a move now. You need to bet on it now because those numbers aren't going to get any better. I mean, you're really getting a bargain if you think they're good. I mean, I don't think it's a bargain because I don't like Carolina, but that doesn't mean, if you've done your homework already and you're starting to do your stuff and you like Carolina, now's the time to bet it because their odds are only going to go down, especially if Baker seizes the job early in training camp. You're not going to get plus 1,000 later if you think that they can win the South. And honestly, I mean, I don't think that's a bad number. I think that actually is a decent value, 10-1. Because first of all, I think the Bucs are ridiculous at minus 320. They're only that because of Tom Brady. They're going to have their issues. We don't know what we're going to get with the Saints. We like the Saints. We've talked about it, but the Panthers at plus 1,000 is might be a good value bet if you want to invest into it. But do it now because it'll be plus 800 in a month.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just, the Bucs, we'll talk about this down the road. At some point, Tom Brady will be too old for the NFL. And it hasn't happened yet. But, I mean, he is already doing things that are unprecedented every single year at his age. At some point, Father Time will catch up with him. So we will get much more into that over the next couple of months. The season starts 2 months from tomorrow. As far as the NFL goes, we'll talk college football as well, have conference previews for college football. SEC media days start a week from Monday, and so we'll go heavy into the SEC that week, the week of July the 18th. So looking forward to all of that here on bet.nola.com and at the book. Did want to mention also big news for the other professional New Orleans franchise, the Pelicans, get their Zion extension done yesterday on Zion's birthday. At this point, it was a formality, but it's still, I think if you're a Pelicans fan, it feels pretty damn good to watch him put pen to paper there, Spencer.
Yeah, it's good they got it done. They had to do it. It was one of those things. I know some Pels fans are like, man, how come he gets a max and didn't play a single game last year? Well, it's because his upside's that high. He's got the upside of a top 5 to 10 player, maybe even an MVP if he really reaches the ceiling and can, most importantly, stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy in order for this contract to pan out. But he had a full year to rest and rehab. And so hopefully his rehab went well to where he'll be ready to go by training camp and fit into this rotation well, because it was getting to be a pretty lethal rotation there with CJ, BI, and those guys. And if he can have a healthy Zion in there, then that's a team that should hopefully get a top 6 seed in the West. It's a deal. A lot of people thinking, a lot of the experts are probably thinking, a play-in team. But hey, if you got a healthy Zion, I'm aiming high. To me, the goal should be at least a top 6 seed.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. It's sort of like playing fantasy sports or going to Vegas and playing poker. Like you don't play just to sort of win on the margins. You're playing to win championships. And if you think you have a chance to win a championship with this core, you have to add Zion to it. You have to. His upside is so great that if you have the chance to do that, he's the one. Now, could it all blow up? Could he be hurt? Yeah. Could the chemistry get screwed up? I suppose so. But at some point, you have to recognize his talent and say, if we're going to go be a contender for an NBA title, Zion's going to be a part of it.
Whoa, Zach. If I made the final table at the main event and finished 9th, I think I would be okay.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know.
Fair enough on that point. But to get to the final,
bucks,
you're going to have to take a few risks to get to the final table is my point. Like, if you get to the final table and lose, well, you're still pretty happy. But to get there, you're going to have to take some risks. Yes, that's right. By the way, on Monday during Bayou Bets on the 4 o'clock hour, we will have Daniel Sallerson, the Pelicans radio analyst, on the show. And so he'll talk to us a little bit more about Zion and what that means. Because honestly, we're going to talk a lot of football over the next couple of months. The next NBA season comes a hell of a lot faster than you think it does. It's like, preseason starts early October. So it's not that far away either. And the Pelicans, Devin, should be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they have a preset, kind of rotation right now. Got tremendous contributions from rookies, Trey Murphy as well as Herb Jones, obviously. And you add Dyson Daniels as well, who we talked about leading up to the NBA draft, as another piece to add. And he doesn't have to come in and contribute immediately. So adding Zion to the mix, I don't really see an issue from a kind of from a chemistry perspective, because it's not like he wasn't around the team, like he was there in the locker room and at the game. So I think more so is just adding another weapon to the offense and then making sure that every time down the floor, him or Brandon Ingram are touching the ball along with CJ McCollum and continuing to play high level basketball. But for the Pelicans, I believe they have Ingram signed through 2025 and then Zion through 2028. So you have 2 cornerstone pieces for the next 5-6 seasons. That's exciting, and you can continue to add to that. And, maybe you make a few moves to some of your role players to add more talent to that lineup. But right now they had to feel pretty good about what they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at just simple roster situations and roster constructions, the Pelicans are a top 10 at least situation in the NBA, which imagine saying that 12, 18 months ago. I mean, it just seems crazy how quickly fortunes have changed for that franchise. So looking forward to talking to Daniel Sallerson on Monday, more about the Pelicans. For now, you're watching At the Book here on bet.nola.com. Zach Ewing, Jim Derry, Devin Jackson, and Spencer the Guru with you. Want to kind of work through some of the rest of the world of sports here. Slow time in the summer, obviously, but still some things going on. One of the big things across the pond, as they say, this morning in London, Rafael Nadal withdraws from Wimbledon. He had an abdominal injury in his quarterfinal match, gutted out a win over Taylor Fritz, who was the last American in the draw. So he made the semifinals, was going to face Nick Kyrgios, and was actually an underdog in that match. Probably more because of the injury than anything else. But today he pulls out of the match. So Nick Kyrgios basically gets defaulted into the final. And that's affected your futures odds. Novak Djokovic still a heavy favorite, but he's gone from minus 420 to minus 350, because even if he wins his semifinal, he'll face a rested Kyrgios in the final. And then the British, the hometown favorite, Cameron Norrie, is up to 2,200. On the women's side, we have a final. The semifinals were this morning. Ons Jabeur of Tunisia, looking to become the first tennis player from that country to win a Grand Slam. She is favored in the final over the Kazakhstani Elena Rybakina. Jim, you know all about the tennis draw, I know, so go for it, man.
Yeah, I'm just I can't wait to bet it. I'm all over it. Joker.
No, I will say this. You can't bet Djokovic at minus 300. I don't think. But what you can do What you can do is bet him if he were to fall behind a set or something, as he did earlier in the tournament against Jannik Sinner, your boy Jannik Sinner. You can get good prices on these guys when they fall behind a set, because Djokovic and Nadal both have proven that being down a set doesn't mean anything to them. They're so mentally tough, so physically fit that they will come back and do it. I do like Ons Jabeur in the women's final there at -150. A lot of the analytics sites I follow have her as a bigger favorite than that, so I'm willing to pay that -150. That actually opened at -130.
Maybe you're better off doing a parlay then. I mean, that would be one way to bet Djokovic if you think he's going to win, and I think that's probably a better bet. I'm not going to dip my toe in the pool of Wimbledon. I haven't watched enough tennis as of late. I used to love it. It was great. But I kind of lost track of who's who, and I'll leave it to you experts to make those picks. Zach, you are the king of obscure sports, and that is your strength. Yeah.
I like how we call Wimbledon and soccer and these things that are immensely popular for billions of people, and we take them
immensely
and call them
popular.
Soccer is immensely popular
outside of the United States of America.
I'm going to have you be my co-host for the Premier League and Champions League preview show we do here in a few weeks.
I'll do whatever you tell me to do.
All right. Back on this side of the Atlantic, and by the way, we're going to go back over to England here in a minute, or at least to Britain.
More to my expertise?
Yes, but back on this side of the Atlantic for a minute, the baseball season has hit its halfway point. Is actually just, for most teams, a game or two past the halfway point. We did have Eric Biggio on last week, as I mentioned. We went through a lot of futures odds, so we won't spend as long on it today. But we'll say that the New York Yankees continue to have their price shortened, even though they lost a game this week. I think to Pittsburgh, that was kind of, it's baseball, it happens. But they're down to 4-1 to win the World Series. I look at this, guys, and Spencer, maybe you want to weigh in on this. I look at this as an opportunity to bet the next two teams on that list, because the Dodgers and Astros now have smaller prices, or longer prices than they did at the beginning of the season. So I see this as an opportunity to get value on those teams, since everyone is enamored with the Yankees.
Right. Yeah, they're still pretty low, though. Yeah, 450 and 500. So, I mean, yeah, you could. It'd be if you really like them. But I personally would probably go with a long shot if there's one you like. They got different. I mean, like the Braves there at 11-1 could be something, or the Padres at 16-1. I kind of like, because Tatis is still not back, and they're hanging in there. So I think when he comes back, their odds will drop a lot. So the Yankees I'm not touching. They're just too hot right now. We know how baseball is. Look at Tennessee with the College World Series. They've been the best regular season team, were the heavy favorites, and boom, got knocked out. I know MLB is different with the playoffs with 7-game series, but I'm not touching the Yankees there. I'm looking for more of a long shot value.
No, and I think that's good strategy, especially because look, they're letting 12 teams in the playoffs now, and the top 2 teams in each league get a bye, but they've still got 7 other teams they're going to have to beat out. These odds are not going to be all that different in October. And who's to say that the Yankees or Dodgers or Astros don't suffer a serious injury between now and then, and then you'd look like an idiot for betting on them in July, when they're going to be very similar prices, Jim, in September, October.
I got to say the Rays and the Red Sox are intriguing to me, because I think one of those teams is probably going to make the playoffs. And to put a little something at 3,500 and 3,000, you watch the Rays. Corey Kluber's been pitching a lot better. I mean, I actually like where the Rays are right now. I think they're going to be the one that comes out of there. And I like the Blue Jays still. I liked them before the season. They were basically the same price, 1,300. Maybe a little bit less. They might have been 1,100, somewhere around there. So I think there's value on both of those teams. You can't – look, any team named New York is going to be overpriced no matter what even when they're bad, they're overpriced. It kind of goes for the Dodgers as well, although I still think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. When all is said and done, when it comes down to it at the end, I still think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. But if you're looking for a value, I'm going to go to one of those other AL East teams and put money maybe on all 3 teams not named the New York Yankees and not named the Baltimore Orioles. I think all 3 of those, you can get a little value there if you want to put something, because I think whoever comes out of that division has an excellent chance of making it to the World Series.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is, I think not that it's a given by any stretch, but the most likely scenario is that those are your three American League wildcards, is the Rays, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays, which means they've got to play in these best-of-3 series. But it also means, it means that at least one of them's got to make it through, and possibly two of them make it through. And at that point, you're more on even footing with the other teams. I mean, you don't have home field, but home field in baseball doesn't mean as much as it does in a lot of other sports. And so you would have a fighting chance, I think, with one of those teams. So I like that too. The other really interesting market in baseball right now to me is the MVP market, especially in the American League. You have Aaron Judge, who hit his 30th home run yesterday. He's still on pace for right around 60. He could threaten Roger Maris' Yankees record of 61, and still what some people consider to be the major league record of 61. And so he's getting a lot of press. And like you say, Jim, he's getting that New York media effect too. Well, Shohei Ohtani, who plays on a bad team that is probably not going to finish 500, like the guy had another sterling pitching performance last night. It's just so hard to handicap what he does, because it's unlike anything. Even Babe Ruth, you can't really say did it like Ohtani did, because Babe Ruth was never a full-time hitter at the same time he was a pitcher like Ohtani is doing. And so Ohtani won the MVP last year. Even if the Angels are bad, he's got a chance to win this thing.
Don't get me into the argument that I got in with my 24-year-old son the other day, who thinks that Ohtani is way better than Babe Ruth, and how would anybody know that? I have no idea. Anyway, that being said, I think there's little question in my mind that Shohei Ohtani is the best player in baseball right now. Does that correlate to being the MVP? No, because you have a bunch of old codgers who vote the same way that they vote every year. And they're probably not going to vote for a player from a team that's sub 500. I remember when I was semi-kid, Andre Dawson won the NL MVP in 1987 for a Cubs team that finished in last place, only because he hit 49 home runs. And it was one of those years, it was a dead ball year where no one really did anything, and he was literally the only player that deserved it in the NL. But those years are so far and few between. I just think that betting MVPs in baseball is really tough because, again, you got to think like a 70-year-old sports writer to be able to win those things.
I disagree with that. I think it's changed. I do. I mean, Alex Rodriguez won several MVPs with the Rangers.
Shohei we thought it changed during the Super Bowl too, and who we thought.
I mean,
we all agree who should have been the MVP of the Super Bowl, but at the same time, we probably knew it wasn't going to happen. I mean,
it is true.
They do things the way they want.
I mean, it is absolutely true that you have to bet on what you think the voters will do, not who you think is the best player.
That's correct.
That part of it is absolutely true. But Mike Trout's won a couple of MVPs. He's been on sub 500 teams. Shohei Ohtani won it last year. Bryce Harper won it for the Phillies last year on a team. I don't know if they had a losing record, but it was close. They were not a playoff team. Giancarlo Stanton won it for the Marlins in 2017. He was on a losing team. Like
he was also hitting 500-foot home runs.
Well, tell me what Ohtani's doing is not equally as incredible.
500-foot home runs.
What I'm saying is it is changed, and I'm curious. I want to ask Devin, because Devin is, I would say, a more casual baseball fan than the rest of us here. When you look at what Aaron Judge is doing and what Shohei Ohtani is doing, Devin, who would you vote for? I mean, without really digging into the numbers, if you were a voter and someone said, "Who's the MVP?" What's your gut reaction?
See, I would have said Judge until about 2-3 weeks ago, because Ohtani did go through a little bit of he wasn't playing as well as he is right now. But I would say Ohtani probably at the halfway point. I would vote for him because, I think with Aaron Judge, you expect at some point that it's going to dip off a little bit. It's not, he can't stay this hot the entire season, but maybe he will. But I think with Ohtani, because he's doing both pitching and hitting very well for a team that isn't very good. I mean, he had a lot of people consider Mike Trout the best baseball player for a couple of years, but Ohtani, I mean, he seems like he surpassed him. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see. So, kind of being able to write the MVP article last week, is crazy how the number was starting to dip down even as I was writing. Because I think when I started, it was he was at 375 and then he dipped down to 350. And then when it posted, it was at 325. So clearly, I mean, they see some value in him. But I would say Ohtani is the MVP in my mind, but I know the voters are probably going to go with Judge, especially if he gets close to 60 home runs.
Also, Zach, real quick, I think that because Ohtani won it last year, that also goes against him because I'm not saying all the voters think this way, but I know a few of them, and there are quite a few who you have to be like head and shoulders monster year to win it 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
that's going to play a factor.
It's a little bit of voter fatigue. Now, there are also voters, I think, who anymore go straight by WAR. They look at the Baseball Reference WAR leaderboard and say, that's the guy who is worth the most statistically. I'm going with him. Ohtani's at 4.3. Judge is at 3.6 right now. So if you do that, it's Ohtani. And that's my segue into the National League race. And Spencer, your guy, Paul Goldschmidt of the Cardinals, is the top position player in baseball right now, 4.6 WAR. He's actually behind Sandy Alcantara, the Marlins starter, who's the Cy Young favorite. He's at 4.8 WAR.
Don't be a homer.
Maybe Alcantara should be an MVP candidate. I don't know. But what I was going to say, Spence, is that Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and Tommy Edman, 3 Cardinals, are in the top 6 in baseball in WAR right now.
Yeah, it's amazing how well the Cardinals lineup's done. But I'm not going to be a homer here. I'll admit right now I would not touch Paul Goldschmidt at plus 100 because as great of a first half he's had, I don't think he's going to keep that up in the second half. He's 34 years old now. I still think he'll have a nice season, but I think he's currently on pace for like 40 bombs and over 120 ribs, hitting 340. I don't see him keeping up that pace. And so at plus 100, there's just no value there. So I would not touch that. Arenado could be a value. I think he's probably, I'm not sure what he's at. I think he's probably at probably plus 600 or 700.
No, I think he's plus 1,000 actually. So
he's at yeah,
there may be a lot of value there.
Well, then there's a lot of value there. If you're going to bet on a Cardinal, bet Arenado because I think he could have a better second half as far as he hadn't. That's just the way baseball is. It's a game of streaks a lot of times, and Goldschmidt's been on such a tear. I just don't see him being able to keep that up all year. To where Arenado at plus 1,000, there's just way more value.
Okay, I hate to interrupt you, Spencer, but if you see him run off screen to go place a bet on his Caesars Sportsbook app, it's because of what I'm about to tell him. I just checked. I was wrong. It's Mookie Betts who's 10-1. Nolan Arenado is 30-1 to win the MVP.
A great value.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to do it then. Actually, a rookie of the year. I placed a bet on Nolan Gorman the other day to win rookie of the year because I felt like there was so much value there. I was like, Neil Cruz. I was like, he's good, but he's not Nolan Gorman. I thought there was just so much more value there, and so yeah. Arenado, that's a bargain.
Zach, another thing about Goldschmidt is you got to remember he went through a streak. I think he had 6 or 7 days in a row he had a home run. So you take those streaks, and don't get me wrong, he's been fantastic. He's on one of my fantasy teams. I think he's on the one that
I got
in the same league. But and Arenado's in my other league, and I just think Arenado is more important to that team. And I think as we go along, and the Cardinals make a run to the playoffs, I think Arenado is going to be way more important to that team than Goldschmidt is. Again, not taking anything away from what Paul Goldschmidt has done, but as his numbers recede a little bit, Arenado is the more steady player. And just the fact, like you said, 30-1. That's a no-brainer. I think that as soon as we get off the show, I'm going to put a little something on it.
Put it this way: I don't know if Arenado's going to win it, but it makes no sense that Goldschmidt's even money while Arenado's 30-1. It makes no sense at all. So that is super interesting, and we can talk. We can talk more about baseball as the summer goes on too. Rookie of the Year is interesting. Go back and watch our midseason show from last Monday, the Bayou Bets show with Eric Biggio, if you want to know more, because he goes into exactly how some of these markets are priced. Like you mentioned, the Rookie of the Year market. O'Neal Cruz of the Pirates comes up. Fabulous talent. May end up being a great player. Same thing with Adley Rutschman, the Orioles catcher. But these guys they're missing 2 months of the season. It's hard to catch up in those races when you don't, you're not going to accumulate those runs scored and those hits and that WAR. You're not going to be able to get to the same stats. And if you do, then you'll probably win it. But you have 4 months to do it instead of 6. So it makes it a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and Gorman had a little bit of a head start on Cruz, and I just feel like with Gorman, he's such a big power hitter for he's a second baseman and stuff. I just feel like I know the Cardinals have a lot of other good hitters, but Gorman's a guy that if he can really find his swing, like he was so good in AAA. I know AAA doesn't always translate, but if he can find his power stroke, he's a dude that could hit 20 or 30 bombs.
We did bring the homer out in Spencer. We got it. We got it. All right.
Hey, I'm just saying, man, Gorman, y'all, he's a great value, rookie of the year.
You're watching Bayou Bets on bet.nola.com. A couple more things to get to before we
Morel,
end the show.
baby.
Let Christopher Morel.
Yeah, he's a great value too. I picked him up in fantasy. Yeah.
Let's move back across the Atlantic. Talk some golf. The British Open is next week. It starts a week from today, a week from very early this morning. So right now, a lot of the world's top players are over there for the Scottish Open. Scottish Open wraps up round 1 today. We were texting a little bit earlier with Uncle Big Nick, Jim. It was a bloodbath in the afternoon. The winds kicked up. Guys couldn't hit the fairway. Even when they did, they couldn't hit the green. Once they got on the green, their putts were blowing all over the place. I mean, it was nasty out there. And so what you see up here is a leaderboard full of guys who got to play in the morning today. But the question is, of course, does the same thing happen tomorrow when the morning guys have to play in the afternoon?
I think it does, which gives an advantage to some. There'll be a couple players that could take advantage of it. But almost all the guys on this list are going to be playing in the afternoon tomorrow. And I am very interested to see Cameron Tringali. I think birdied 6 holes in a row and 7 out of 8 at one point to get to where he is. And they had the Tringali 59 watch at some point, which would have been absurd to do with the Scottish Open. But you got to think he's going to fall back a little bit, and kind of like Mito did a few weeks ago, who you also see on this list. But there's some interesting names. John Rahm's overpriced. It's hard to believe. You could have got better odds before this tournament started, and now he's 7 shots back, and his odds are worse than they were before it started.
And he's playing in the afternoon tomorrow.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's obscene. So I think you got to look for the steady player, the guy that's going to shoot similar to what he shot each day. And to me, that's a guy – I like Sam Burns before the tournament started. I know he plays in the afternoon tomorrow. I don't like that price at $900, especially when you could have got him at $2,800 or $2,700 before the tournament started. But maybe a Jordan Spieth at -2 or something like that, a Terrell Hatton, who I also liked before. I think one of these guys that's 2 or 3 under, all these people still have shots to keep going strong because they will play steady. Sam Burns is probably going to shoot 10 or 11 under. Terrell Hatton's probably going to shoot 10 or 11 under. Is Cameron Tringali going to be able to shoot better than even par the rest of the way? I don't know. It kind of depends on tomorrow, but I would not be surprised if he shot like a 74 tomorrow at all.
Yeah, I like betting golf live, and I do it from time to time. I'm not doing anything until after.
There's no value right now
because
really,
you've got to see
what
the wind does tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean,
no value.
It's actually supposed to be gusty in the morning tomorrow as well in Scotland, so it could be a bloodbath again tomorrow. And I think you've got to see who emerges from that, and even who makes the cut. I mean, some of these guys were at even par today, and the cut's going to be at 2 or 3 over, and they look safe. Man, there's some 75, 76s, 78s on that course tomorrow, and so. Who knows what will happen? I would not touch that tournament until after the round tomorrow, unless you see a big weather edge.
Not only that, and I said this in our preview this week, you also have to be careful of which of the elite golfers are just using this as a tune-up and not necessarily – I mean, everybody tries to win. Don't get me wrong. I mean, of course you want to win. But there are some elite golfers that are probably going to put less into this thing than they are. And if they're close to the cut line, it would not surprise me at all if a Justin Thomas is right on the cut line and he's going into 18 and whoops, I bogeyed and I got 2 days off to prepare for the British Open. That kind of stuff wouldn't surprise me at all.
Or guys who just say, listen, I'm gonna go for every pin, and if I shoot 8 under, then great, exactly. I'm gonna go to win. And if I shoot 8 over, then cool, I'm off for the weekend and I go get ready. And at this course, listen, if you start going for pins and the wind starts blowing, 8 over might be the best you can do.
Yeah.
Go look at Brian Harman's scorecard, see how that worked out for him.
But if you look at past history of this tournament, though, you have an idea. No matter what the wind does, you still know that probably somewhere between 12 under and 15 under is going to win this tournament. So obviously Tringali has a leg up if he can shoot. He really only needs to shoot 68, 69 2 out of the next 3 days and throw a 71 in there, and he can win this tournament. But is he going to do that? I doubt it. I really think it's going to be one of the other guys like a Sam Burns who is more likely to shoot 66, 67 a couple times and throw in a 69 and win the thing.
Yeah, and it's a good segue talking about getting ready for next week, because the Open Championship is next week at St. Andrews, and Rory McIlroy, the Brit, is the favorite. So I guess I shouldn't say Northern Ireland is not part of Great Britain, but it is part of the UK, I think. So I shouldn't call him a Brit.
It is part of the UK, correct?
I think it's part of the UK, but not part of Great Britain, I believe.
Is correct.
So I can't call him a Brit, but he is from that part of the world. Put it that way. John Rahm, you see at 11-1. Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, who both kind of struggled today, are among the favorites. I will tell you right now, Jim, one guy I really like out of this list is Cam Smith down at the bottom. He didn't play real well today either, but he just seems made for that golf course.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think Cam Smith will definitely be on my card next week. Really part of the reason why he was on my card for this week, because I thought he was going to, I thought he would be getting super serious. Not that any other golfer isn't serious, but I agree with you. The long shots, I think he is made for it. I think there's a good chance that he has an excellent week. I think Matt Fitzpatrick is playing outstanding golf at plus 2,000 as a value. Again, these are numbers that are probably not going to stay here because really the golf bettors, they start jumping on this stuff real soon. They'll jump on this before this weekend's up. So if you like guys like that, now's the time to get it. But Matt Fitzpatrick and Cam Smith, I think both of those guys are probably ought to bet now.
Yeah, and I agree. Fitzpatrick, the U.S. Open champ. Saw Colin Morikawa, who is last year's British Open champ, also at 20-1.
Not playing that great right now, though.
No, he's not. So that's the story in golf. We can follow that all weekend. Talk more about the British Open on Monday. Also this weekend, we've got auto racing from Devin Jackson's hometown of Atlanta. So Devin, give us a pick here, man. We got to go to the expert Spencer in a minute, but Devin, who do you like in your hometown?
Yeah, I look at this list, and obviously Kyle Larson as a favorite is someone to keep an eye on. But Chase Elliott, he's been racing really well over the last couple of weeks, and I like his chances at 10-1. And then I'll give a long shot pick as well. Daniel Suarez, he's also raced very well over the last couple of weeks as well at 20-1. So I think putting a few dollars down on him. I think he came in second or third last weekend. So I think Daniel Suarez would be the long shot play for this race. But I like Elliott and Suarez as picks for this race to potentially win it.
All right, Spencer, I'm gonna say this looks more like a long shot race than a favorites race, but you tell me.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a long shots race because the way Atlanta, they repaved the track to where now it basically runs like a super speedway. It's only 1.5 miles, but the way it's like a baby super speedway, the way the cars are all bunched up. So this could be anybody's race. This is one I personally would probably stay away from. If I had to pick a winner here among the favorites, I'd go with Ryan Blaney because he tends to run really well at super speedways. And he's one of those drivers that he's up there in the points, but he's yet to get a win this season. And so he's a guy that I think could very well break through and get his first win, as well as Bubba Wallace potentially at 12-1. He hadn't had a very good year so far, but they made some changes to his pit crew. He had been openly expressing how he was mad with his pit crew. They've been costing him positions in races, costing him top 10 finishes, and now he's got some new pit crew members, and he's a really good super speedway racer. So I'm thinking he could potentially be an upset candidate. But they got some that have even longer odds than that, like Brad Keselowski at 35-1, Ricky Stenhouse at 45-1. So this is definitely one that I feel like it's worth taking a shot on, a long shot or two.
All right, fantastic stuff. Golf, tennis, auto racing, baseball, all going strong. But as we mentioned, football's coming soon, and we're going to talk a lot of football on these channels starting next week. Really probably starting a week from now. Monday's show, as we mentioned, Daniel Salerson will be here, Pelicans radio team, and we'll also talk a lot of British Open on Monday. And then we will get going with the football very, very soon, and it will be a lot of football. Before we go here on this Thursday, guys, your final thoughts, starting with you, Devin.
Excited to watch some summer league basketball tonight. The number 1 and number 3 picks in the NBA draft, Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith Jr. playing against each other tonight. LSU's Tari Eason as well for the Rockets. So excited to watch that game tonight. And see how those fare. It's in Vegas. It's a little bit of a late start at 9 p.m. start Central Time. And then the second game is at 11. So if you want to stay up late and watch some summer basketball and see some of these top picks in the NBA draft, go at it. It's definitely the night to do so.
Rockets -2.5 against the Magic in that one, and the Pistons -3.5 against Portland in the late game. So, yeah, you can bet on some NBA Summer League. It's out there. It pays the same. Jim Derry, your final thought?
Well, I'm so super bored that I'm going to actually probably watch the Rockies and Diamondbacks because that's our only best bet of the day. Two cellar dwellers in the National League West. So I am truly looking forward to football season and ready to get going for sure because I can't watch this stuff anymore. I mean, we need to get football going.
Spencer just left us.
I can't wait for – by the way, I meant to say earlier – I can't wait for, I'm doing all the NFL team previews and over the unders. I cannot wait for Devin Jackson's preview on like Kennesaw State and, Western Kentucky and Central Michigan. I can't wait to see what he's going to pick with all these teams. They're over unders. I'm going to be pouncing all over them.
The NFL season starts in 9 weeks, I believe, and so the college season is in 8 weeks from today. I think August 31st or something is that first Thursday, whatever that is, or maybe
week
September
0.
1st. Yes, September. Yeah, in fact, there may be week 0 games even the week before that, so maybe we're only 7 weeks away.
I think it's a couple Big Ten teams starting in overseas somewhere.
Yeah, somebody plays in Ireland.
Nebraska and somebody.
Nebraska,
Can't remember.
Illinois, maybe?
Northwestern or something like that.
Clearly, we need to look at the schedule, but we will do that. We will do that. Spencer's final thought before he left was that he needed to go bet on Nolan Arenado, I think, so to win the MVP because he got out of town, man. And my final thought would be
already 29-1.
That's right. So Spencer moved the line by himself. He put down 5 Gs on Arenado. He's going to quit if he hits that bet, so we're going to have problems. My final thought. Look, again, if you want to be a football betting expert this fall, stick with us because this is where you need to be. Jim's going to look at a different team every day. There's going to be experts from covers.com. Adam Chernoff is fantastic. Devin and I are going to do some college football. Spencer's going to do some fantasy. Like we're going to do props. We're going to do look at headlines. We're going to have a bunch of good stuff for you on football. Spencer, did you make that bet, man? You're back. Is that where you went?
Apparently my computer was because it just quit on me there. But, they got it back now, so.
All right, finish us off with your final thought now that you're back.
All right, yeah, y'all get on me about being a Cardinals homer earlier. Man, I've been upset as a Cardinals fan lately. Man, Cards been really struggling. The Braves have had our number so far, but got one more chance at a win tonight, so hopefully can get that in, and then just really excited too for training camp will be starting up here in a few weeks. It was cool to see Jameis throw it out a knee brace. That was good to see. He's making good progress, and hopefully him and Mike Thomas can be back and ready to go for camp and have a strong off season and heading into the regular season.
Good thing we're into the show. We'd have a bunch of hater messages coming in.
Yeah, you can't talk against those Braves, man. Not around.
No, I'm talking about the Michael Thomas and Jameis Winston.
No.
Yeah.
Listen. So here's a good thought for you. CBS Sports ranked the NFL teams based on their roster strength this year, and put the Saints 21st.
That's insane.
Okay, listen.
That is insane.
I'm not a Saints fan. I'm not from here, and you can argue. If you said 15th, I'd be like, nah, it's a little low, but okay, we can make the argument. 20. If you put them in the 20s, that almost disqualifies you as an NFL analyst. What are you looking at? The roster is much stronger than that.
Haters in the house.
I guess.
Let them all eat cake come January.
As King you cake. Can tell, we are fired up for football season here on bet.NOLA.com. If you want to join the action, go to NOLA.com/Caesars. Get your $1,500 risk-free bet and join the fun. And we'll be back on Monday, 4 o'clock. Daniel Salerson of the Pelicans radio team will be here. We'll also talk some British Open and, of course, some football. For our producer, Devin Jackson, Spencer the Guru, and Jim Derry, I'm Zach Ewing. Have a good day, everybody.